I can see him today. His eyes were blazing, his face got red. And he said, "Stand on your feet, black boy. You can't sit down here." Down here, down here. So I decided, and I was only about 8 years old, that I was going to stand against that kind of thing the rest of my life.
I knew that I needed to do something to commemorate and to give some visibility, if you would, some permanent visibility to his legacy, something that people would be able to see, touch, and feel, and want to know why it even existed. And so I approached the city of Philadelphia and asked them to rename the airport. My first request in 2013 was kind of turned down, but I didn't give up. So I went back again in 2019 and asked the city to consider naming the airport. This airport became special in that request because Dr. Sullivan started in Philadelphia. This is an international airport, and he would be in and out of this airport to do the work that he did in Africa. And so the mayor appreciated the request, understood the purpose, and saw to it that the international terminal would be considered and that the arrivals hall that had never had a name would be named the Reverend Dr. Leanne H. Sullivan Arrivals Hall.
This exhibit, it's meant to be a sketch of the life and the context and impact of Reverend Sullivan. And we first started out on a local level, like you were saying, the simplicity of his humble beginnings, his vision, and the foundation of his vision, which is his faith, and how it evolved eventually. So in my research, it was just so amazing to see his impact on people. When I think about the March on Washington in 1963, it was called the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. And when you think about, we remember the I Have a Dream speech by Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. But I think that when it comes to jobs and freedom, it's hard to argue who could have done more than the Reverend Leanne H. Sullivan of Philadelphia.
Self-help, self-help. Self-sufficiency, self-sufficiency. Self-dependability, self-dependability. We're on our way.
This dedication was in commemoration of Dr. Sullivan's centennial birth in October 2022. And so one of the things we committed to doing in that celebration was to continue the celebration through the year by education. And so today we're going to be speaking to a group of high school students from Belmont High School Charter. And my brother Ron Howard has put together this amazing project that's going to engage the high school students in studying the exhibit and the work of Dr. Sullivan.
My name is Ron Howard. I am here today as a Sullivan Ambassador. I have earned that title by virtue of having spent most of my working life in service to a great, great man, Reverend Dr. Leon Howard Sullivan. And today we are trying to give back to the next generation of young students an understanding and an appreciation of the life and legacy of one of the great, great, great black leaders of our time. This is a creative learning experience. This is not a game, this is a study experience to give each of you a grounding. So when you get ready to try to now translate into art or to translate into words, whatever will come out of your respective creative juices, then you have a foundation from which to work. Somebody has to prompt that particular initiative to come to the forefront. And I think that one of the things that we'd like to try to do with a program such as this is start reaching out to more schools, and ultimately when schools start coming and seeing what's happening and the information gets shared, it may end up broadening itself into a citywide effort to really include Reverend Sullivan in the curriculum of what people learn when they come to the high schools.
Hello, I'm Jolie Contab, otherwise known as Miss Contab and Miss Joy. I am the 11th grade English teacher with Belmont Charter High School, and we are here today for our community service project with my lovely 11th and some 12th graders today. We are creating a arts as well as poetry and written project for Reverend Dr. Leon H. Sullivan and his legacy in the Philadelphia community, specifically in Black and Brown communities. I think it was very important to bring the kids here today to remind them that in order to do any kind of community work, we have to work as a community. We have to work together.
I am extremely excited about what's happening here today because it is for us, the living, to make sure that our history is told and told with authenticity.
I'm here to learn about Dr. Sullivan. And what I learned about him is that he's one of the greatest civil rights activists and is single-handedly made many and many jobs for Black people, poor economy and high stature. And he went around the world to basically make a way for Black people to get into businesses and get on top.
I learned a lot about Sullivan and how he helped Black people in general, and about how he wanted better for us.
We learned about Leon Sullivan. He's like I wouldn't say he's an activist, but he's kind of a figure in Black history.
The mission and the values and the philosophy and the concepts of self-help that Reverend Sullivan was such an advocate of, they are still needed and still very much alive today. And a lot of the work that he was able to start, whether you're talking about the OIC programs, whether you're talking about Progress Plaza and the whole Progress movement, whether you're talking about the Leon Howard Sullivan Trust, whether you're talking about the international aspect of OIC, those are still as needed today as they were in the times when he created them during the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s. So hopefully we can find a way to revive these very, very important developments and breakthroughs that Reverend Sullivan was able to create.
I'm very proud of what we have here, and I hope that many people will learn, become interested and want to read his works and see what he did, because what he did was basically engaging the community, starting at the church, engaging the community to make a difference. It worked then, and it can work now.
Therefore, we cut this ribbon. Send the message from this sinner and across your country